Hi all, here's a quick demo using a water-soluble felt tip pen. Obviously you can start with pencil first, but I do think it's quite a good exercise to try and go straight in with pen from time to time and just allow any mistakes to happen and work with them. So I'm just starting off at the top of the bird and kind of working down, just looking at the shapes and just basically taking it shape by shape. I like to kind of leave lines hanging rather than finishing off any area too rigidly and go to another area, then come back to the line that you just finished. It's a much more kind of flexible way to draw rather than finishing off each area. Remember, I'm not going for perfection, just trying to get a kind of speed and a flow going so that I'm kind of giving it a little bit of movement and life. Remember to keep shifting your gaze so that you're not just looking at the obvious shapes, the beak and the eye and the outline. And I'm also kind of shifting my eyes to look at the negative space shapes and the shadow shapes and the in-between shapes. So I'm coming in with a brush now. I don't like to wait to the very end to do it. I like to kind of dilute the pen as I'm going along. As I would do if I'm drawing, I'd always put the shading in as I'm going along. The shadows are an essential part of a drawing. They're not just an afterthought at the end. And I'm diluting it now with a slightly wet brush, being in control of how wet the brush is. Sometimes I want it a bit wetter if I'm doing a bigger area, sometimes not so wet. You've got to be careful not to lose the light areas that you don't want to lose, which means, every now and again, like I'm doing now, just washing the brush and dabbing the brush onto some tissue. I'm actually using some kitchen roll now just to dab the picture. That sometimes gives you quite a good effect and it mutes down the pen as well. But yeah, keep washing and then drying your brush so that you don't bring the dark areas too much into the light areas. Going for the eye now. Whenever I'm doing an eye, always slow down and probably spend more time looking at the eye and the eye area than maybe any other part, because the eye is probably the most important bit, I would have thought. It's the first thing that people look at when they look at a picture, same as in real life really. And remember, it's not just the eye, it's the shadows around the eye and the shapes, everything that around the eye area. People focus just on the eye, but as you can see in this picture, as in lots of pictures, the shadow and the eye, the outline of the eye and the shadow around the eye are completely interconnected. So you can't really do one without the other. And in fact, I would say focus more on the shadows than actually on the line of the features. So I'm just coming and going with my pen and the brush, doing a little bit of pen and doing a little bit of brush work, just to dilute it a little bit. Sometimes you have a little bit of tone on the brush without even having to touch the pen, and you can do the more kind of subtle areas as well. Once the diluted pen is dry, you can just draw over it. So you can get a shadow underneath and then put some detail on top of that. remember, if you're going from an iPad like I am or a phone, it's really good to be able to make things bigger, but I often fall into the trap of then making my drawing too big in certain areas. So every now and again, if you've been looking at your image really big to get an eye or an area, keep making it the size of your picture again, so that you get a basic, you keep reminding yourself of the basic proportions. Otherwise it's really easy to start going too big, which I often do. Yes, even I make mistakes. I'm using a lot of water for the darker areas. If you're doing a big dark area, then obviously you can just use more water and let the water take the ink further. Okay, so I'm now doing what a lot of people find quite scary, and that's doing if there is a dark background, doing a dark background, so that the image or the animal or whatever it is you're drawing really stands out. There's a really strong contrast with a dark background. I know a lot of people do find that a bit scary, which I do understand, but it is nice if you can just kind of face that fear and do it anyway. And just kind of go for the dark. Once you kind of committed to it, you just keep going really. And as long as you're careful with the image, I'm trying to be careful obviously around the edge of the eagle, and then just bringing it out, not necessarily to the very edge of the paper, but just so that I've got a kind of fair amount of space of darkness around the bird, and then just leaving it diluted as I get further away from the bird, so it goes a bit sketchy. But here, the bottom of the beak is darker than the background. So now I'm trying to dilute the pen so that the background is lighter than the bottom of the beak. So it is good to try and, if most things have varying degrees of contrast. So even if something is very dark in the background, there are areas where it may be it's a bit lighter in the background, so it's really good to look out for that. As I say, the only part of this bird which is, I think, darker than the background is the bottom of the beak, and also just that bit on his back on the very right hand side on the dark bit of his plumage. I can't really say the word plumage without thinking about the Monty Python parrot sketch. But anyway, if you do the background nice and dark, as you can see, it really brings out your drawing, painting, whatever you want to call this. It gives it a lot of drama, a lot of kind of 3D quality. So just going back into the bird and putting a few little finishing touches of detail without doing too much. Remember, it's nice to put detail in, but you don't want to start fiddling too much, and you can kind of overdo it, which another mistake that I sometimes make is I overdo things. So just the right level of detail at the end without kind of spoiling the spontaneity of the piece of work. Of course, no piece of artwork would be finished without me using my fingers in some kind of way. So just using my fingers a little bit there. There you go. Is that finished, Jason? Yes, I think that's finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to send the picture. Oh, there you go. I'm signing it. I used the wrong end there. I've got a very thick J. I'll send a picture of this eagle with this video, so you can have a go at the eagle. But you know, have a go with anything really. Landscape, portraits, animals. Yeah, just have a go at anything. Might be good to use a black and white image rather than a colour image if you're just doing it in one tone. Anyway, hope you like that, and yeah, hope to see you all very soon. Bye.